There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power.
Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Midtown Atlanta. You are welcome. Such is the nature of life, that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. And you are that opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. And to begin with, we like to share our Declaration of Principles as written partially by, a partial list of the Declaration of Principles is written by Ernest Holmes. Here you go.
A few of the Declaration of Principles we live by.
I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding.
I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
So grateful, hey.
All right, welcome back. We've got an amazing practitioner this morning. She's one of the co-leaders of our team of practitioners. And if you've got anything you need help with for anything that's going on with your life, they're here to help you. There's a list of practitioners on our website, cslmidtown.org. And you can go there and request spiritual mind treatment, prayer treatment, anything that you need help with, physical, financial, whatever it is, and they're here to help. With that, I'd like to introduce our practitioner this morning,
CSL Midtown
Mya Fuller.
family. I want to begin by taking a moment to acknowledge the devastating wildfires in the Los Angeles, California area. These fires have swept through communities, destroying homes and lives, and our hearts go out to everyone affected. We hold them in our prayers, knowing that the strength of the Spirit is within them as they navigate this challenging time. I also hope you're all staying safe and warm during this powerful winter storm that's been affecting the southeast of the country. Whether you're tuning in from right here in Georgia or anywhere else, I'm so glad we have the chance to connect this morning in this sacred online space. This year, our global theme for Centers for Spiritual Living is all about rising higher, growing deeper, challenging ourselves to reach new heights while staying grounded in spirit. Here in January, we're stretching into possibility, expanding what we believe is possible for our lives. And this week, we're focusing on making space for it, clearing mental and emotional clutter so we can welcome new opportunities and let Spirit work through us in exciting ways. It's about more than just tidying up our thoughts. It's about creating the conditions for growth, transformation, and new opportunities. Because life can get cluttered, not just physically, but in your head and heart too. You've got old fears, doubts, worries, maybe even that mental replay of a conversation you had 2 weeks ago. It all takes up space. And if your mind is jam-packed with all that noise, where's the room for anything new? we've got to make space. Imagine your mind as a fertile garden. In the words of Ernest Holmes, thoughts are like seeds, and the subjective mind, through creative aspect of spirit, is the soil. The soil doesn't argue with the seeds you plant, it simply nurtures them and brings them to life. If you plant seeds of joy, abundance, and possibility, the soil will grow them into a bountiful harvest. But if the garden is cluttered with weeds of old beliefs, fears, and doubts, there's not much room for the seeds to thrive. Making space for it means pulling up those weeds of limited thinking to allow the garden of your mind to flourish with Spirit's limitless creativity. Let me share a story from Florence Scovel Shinn's book, The Secret Door to Success. In chapter 5, entitled The Long Arm of God, she tells of a woman struggling to rent out a room in her home. The woman had tried everything she could think of, but began to feel defeated, wondering if maybe her room wasn't good enough, or if the right tenant would ever show up. These doubts kept swirling in her mind, filling her with uncertainty and fear of failure. The woman had received an intuitive nudge to brighten up the room with a lamp, but she dismissed it, thinking, what difference could a lamp make? Florence Scovel Shinn, who was a metaphysical practitioner, and Florence Scovel Shinn was a metaphysical practitioner, and when she sought guidance from Florence reminded her of the importance of aligning her actions with her desired outcome, and encouraged the woman to follow through on that idea. Finally, the woman purchased not just one lamp, but two, declaring with faith, "Let there be light." Within days, the perfect tenant appeared, someone who not only paid the rent in advance, but exceeded her expectations in every way. By releasing her limited beliefs and taking inspired action, the woman made space for Spirit to flow and bring her desire into reality. The story highlights an important principle. Spirit is always ready to work through us, but we have to create the conditions for it to move. It wasn't the lamp itself that created the shift. It was her willingness to align her thoughts, trust her intuition, and act in faith. That's how we pull the weeds and plant the seeds for something new. And here at CSL Midtown, we have practitioners who are available to support you in creating that same alignment in your life. Just like Florence Scovel Shinn supported her clients, we're here to support you and help you take inspired steps toward your desired outcomes. If this idea resonates with you and you're looking for spiritual support, visit our website at cslmidtown.org to connect with one of our licensed spiritual practitioners. And if this idea of making space has you curious, you're in for a real treat today, because Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson is joining us once again. And if you've heard him speak before, you know what a colorful, dynamic, thought-provoking speaker he is. Dr. Ray has this incredible ability to weave imagination, wisdom, and humor into his messages, leaving us both inspired and ready to take action. He's spoken here many times before and has truly become like a friend of the center, a fan favorite, you might say. I know his talk today will give you plenty to think about and take with you into this week ahead. But before we move into his message, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in this idea of making space through a spiritual mind treatment. I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and slowly release it. Feel the presence of peace within you as we enter into the sacred space of affirmative prayer together. I'm going to speak these words in the first person, and I invite you to take in anything that resonates with you into your heart and receive it for yourself in the first person. there is one infinite presence, one boundless power, one limitless love that moves through all of creation. It is the very essence of life itself, the source of all possibility, creativity, and transformation. This divine presence flows in, through, and as me right now. It surrounds me, uplifts me, and expresses itself as me. I recognize that my life is an unfolding masterpiece of Spirit's infinite love and intelligence. Today, I choose to release and let go of anything that no longer serves me. I pull up the weeds of fear, doubt, and limitation, making space in my mind and heart for new seeds of possibility to take root. I embrace this clearing, knowing it creates fertile ground for Spirit's unlimited creativity to move through me. I trust the divine presence and process unfolding in my life. I open myself to inspiration, to intuition, and to the guidance of Spirit. I align my thoughts and actions with the highest good, knowing that as I make space, greater love, abundance, and joy flow into my experience. In this moment, I extend the light of love and compassion to all beings everywhere, knowing that we are all interconnected in this field of infinite spirit. I affirm peace and comfort for those affected by the California wildfires and for everyone experiencing difficulties anywhere in the world. I trust that the same creative power that flows through me is at work, bringing healing, renewal, and guidance to all who need it. And so, with gratitude in my heart, I release this word into the perfect action of the law, knowing that it is already done. I am supported, uplifted, and transformed. And for this, I give thanks. And so it is. And now, let us move into our music for reflection.
I used to think I had to have my own way, could do everything on my own, living my life like a one-woman play, feeling confused and alone. Still I held on tight to the life that I knew, till it wasn't the life I remembered. Finally admitting I hadn't a clue, I opened my arms and surrendered, and I made room for grace. I just stepped aside, opened up a space, watch the blessings arrive every day, since I made room for grace. I want to live without making demands, asking for help when I need it, being happy, just doing the best that I can. When I stumble, I won't be defeated, since I made room for grace. I just stepped aside, opened up a space. Now the blessings arrive every day, since I made room for grace. If I had insisted on all that I wanted, I see I'd have sold myself short. But when I stopped resisting, I got what I needed, so much more. Since I made room for grace, I just stepped aside, opened up a space, watch the blessings arrive. I made room for grace. I just stepped aside, opened up a space. Now the blessings arrive every day, since I made room for grace. Since I made room for grace.
All right, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our speaker, which Mya said is Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. He's a true Imagineer. He brings his many years of being a professional educator, visual artist, performer, ASL interpreter, author, and lover of comics and film to all areas of his life and ministry, which for him extends beyond the church and center. He's an ordained Centers for Spiritual Living minister and serves as the founding minister and the spiritual director of the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, which is a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. He's both a frequently sought after guest minister and speaker at various churches, centers, and events, and is a frequent facilitator of seminars and workshops related to such things as radical and audacious self-care, living with purpose, grief, forgiveness, LGBTQ empowerment, exploring and expressing one's creativity, and more. In addition to all of this, he currently serves as both the co-lead and interfaith lead for his local Moms Demand Action chapter. And as a survivor of gun violence, he is a participant in the Everytown Survivorship Fellowship Program. With that, I give you Raymont Anderson.
Thank you very much for that, Vance. Thank you, Mya. Thank you, CSL Midtown. Namaste. Come on, people. Happy New Year. Blessings. So, where do we begin? Because there are so many things we could jump in on. Oh, wow. But, it's great. It's awesome to be with you all once again, especially now as we dive into what this year represents. And considering the title for today or the theme for today, whether we think of it as making space for it or making room for it, either way we think of it, the first thing, what is it? Right? Like that's the very first thing we want to think about is if we're going to make space for it, I'd like to know what it is. So when we think of it, well, that's number one. In order to know what it means, we got to we got to know what it is in order to make space for it. But once we know what it is, then begins the work. Because then begins the activity of what it means to declutter or to make space. Right? Like if I'm thinking of just in general, this idea, just in general, I want to make space in my bedroom for a desk. If I just say, make space for it, and Vance is like, okay, Ray, I'm calling the movers. What do I tell them to move? Because what's the thing that you're making space for? Right? So I have to say, I am making space for a new desk. Then we know what needs to be moved or reordered in the room within the space in order to make space. So let's start with, then what is it? Because clearly we're not talking about a desk. What are we talking about? Well, it could be a variety of things. One, it, a well-lived life, a life-affirming expression of your life. Living with purpose, with passion, with peace, with love, with joy. Knowing and expressing your divinity, your divine spiritual excellence. And as Dr. Holmes said in Sermon by the Sea, know what science of mind and spirit is, practice it, and live it as a way of life. There, just to start us off, is it. So when we think of, once again, what does it mean to declutter? If I were to ask you a question, how do we know the difference between decluttering or clutter? How do we know the difference between clutter and a collection? Right? Like way back when in my youth, some years ago, I used to collect comic books. My mother did not see the collection as a collection. She saw it as clutter, and so she threw them away. Mind you, had Lois let me keep them, I'd probably be a millionaire now. But I digress. So we breathe because Mya alluded to this, the idea of clutter, the things that are preventing us from all those things that I said it could represent. The clutter, the old fears, the doubts, the non-life affirming doubts, the non-life affirming judgments, all of these things prevent us from. So, as Kathy Paul says, anything you own, possess, or anything you do that does not enhance your life on a regular basis, that is clutter. She goes on to say that most people think of clutter as things in their physical environment. It's stuff. It's the stuff. But clutter is not only the physical stuff. It's also the old ideas, the toxic relationships, the bad habits. In other words, it can show up in the form of thoughts, activities, relationships, anything and everything that does not enhance your life. That's clutter. You said what now? So let's think about this, because we cannot effectively live our lives, right? We cannot effectively live our lives while something other than our highest and best occupies the space of our lives. Dude right there on the slide, he can't move through that room with any kind of ease, and as the vocalist sang, with ease and grace. He can't. Why? Because there's too much stuff in the room and everything's blocked. He can't do it. It's not going to work. So when we're thinking of this idea of decluttering, we have to declutter not only the physical spaces, our homes, our apartments, our cars, our offices, garages, etc., but we have to declutter our lives as well, as a whole, doing so holistically. So not just our thoughts, our beliefs, but our relationships. Because if we're honest, just between me and you, we know that there are times when there are relationships that are toxic, and we maintain those toxic relationships for a variety of reasons. But those too must be decluttered in order to make space, to make room for it. Now, there are three main reasons that we're even having this discussion at all. One, regarding clutter and decluttering and making space. One, we have been conditioned to amass clutter. We've been conditioned to get more stuff. I got more stuff, but I need more stuff to put more stuff in my stuff with my stuff, because my stuff ain't enough stuff. I got to get more stuff. That's the essence of, we could look at any television marketing project, advertising, billboards. It's about get. You're not complete if you don't have this product. If you're not drinking this 3 times a day, then there's no way you will ever fall in love. We've been conditioned. Number 2, we are not able to effectively discern the difference between what is clutter and what is collection. See, we can have a collection of memories, thoughts, and beliefs that serve a purpose, that elevate us in our lives. But can we discern the difference? And 3, Why are we having this conversation? Because there are many people, many of us, who are not willing to engage in the discomfort that decluttering entails. A lot of us don't want to go there. So, the only way to live fully and truly, to stretch into greater evolutionary ways of being, is to declutter and feel the discomfort. As Dr. Holmes reminds us, the thing then works for us by working through us and is us always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us from every angle. But it can become power to us only when we recognize it as power. Therefore, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration, it sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. It is ready to fill and fulfill everything because it is infinite. So, it is not a question of its willingness, nor of its ability. It is entirely a question of our own receptivity. Breathe, and let's do a Reverend Ray remix. The thing then works for us by working through us and as us always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It is the whole of the universe and expresses itself as us, at us, in us, through us, and from every angle. But it, like electricity, can only become usable power when we actively recognize it as power. Therefore, our mental equivalents set the limits as well as the limitlessness of our demonstration of principle, which of itself is without limit. It is ever filling and fulfilling everything because that is the nature of it as the infinite. So it is not a question of its willingness, its ability. It is entirely a question of our own acknowledged receptivity and the active use of it. Breathe that in. Because if we're going to be honest, what did Dr. Holmes just say? And what did I remix? It's not a question of if the universe is willing, if the universe is able. It is not a question of it is a question of, am I willing to receive it? Am I willing to be it? Am I willing to express it? Am I willing to? Whatever the it is in that moment. So we could say it, because part of the life-affirming experience of, etc., is life-affirming relationships, be that family, be that friends, be that co-workers, colleagues, doesn't matter. Do I want that? Do I want clear communication and cooperation and collaboration with, is that what I want? Is that part of what it is as the expression of the divine? If that's what I want, it's not a question of, dear universe, will you please give me this thing that I desire? It is not a question of if the universe can or will or is willing or is able to give it. It is already given because that which God is already is. So all of the infinite possibilities, all of the infinite permutations of what could be already are. Question is, am I availing myself to receive, to be, and to express it? Breathe. Dr. Holmes goes on elsewhere to say, we are thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. Pause. There is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life right now. That life is expressing in, through, and as you right now. Conscious centers of life. We are surrounded by, immersed in, and there is flowing through us a creative something, a creative everything. Call it whatever you will. The sum total of all our thought, will, purpose, and belief creates a tendency in this law that causes it to react to us according to the sum total of that belief. So if we were to pause and look at all of our mental equivalents, Referencing sort of what Maya said before about old fears and anxieties and worries and such and so forth. Thinking about these. The sum total of, do I have more thoughts of lack and scarcity, not enoughness, separation, war and rumors of war, and, where I am now, as many of us are, because many of us are so entrenched in the minutia of our daily lives that we cannot even imagine. We cannot even imagine what it would be like to live in a post-cluttered experience. All we know is, I got to move through this and move through that to be able to get into the cabinet, to be able to get into my bank account, to be able to get into my relationship. Like I got to move all the trash and the old thoughts and fears of jealousy and envy and all this stuff, and got to move it instead of eliminate it so that I have free range in my kitchen, in my bedroom, in my living room, in my consciousness, my mind, my heart, my soul, my being. We are so enmeshed in and entrenched in and submerged beneath all of the minutia of, hold on, let me get my Post-its because I got to remember and post it there, and I got to remember and post it there. And we get so caught into that it overwhelms us, because that's what hoarding old beliefs, old paradigms, that's what it does. The purpose of it is limitation. So Dr. Holmes says, then knowing that the thing can work for us only through us, let us begin to accept today more good than we experienced yesterday, and to know that we shall reap a harvest of fulfilled desires. The time must come when we shall have left the apparent clutter behind, when it shall be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with the things that once were thought to be, that we now know need not be. And so we remove them, we eliminate them, we declutter them. He says, one of the greatest difficulties in the new order of, Ray, breathe. One of the greatest difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. We pontificate about decluttering and New Year's resolutions, but we do not practice nearly as much as we theorize. As a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. That which we cannot prove may or may not be true, but that which we can prove, certainly, without a doubt, 100% must be and is, in fact, the truth, the whole truth, and only that which is true. So we want to declutter? Well, then let's take to heart what Eckhart Tolle offers us when he said, if you don't face it, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness to the pain, to the clutter, to the stuff, you will be forced to relive it again and again and again. You will be forced to be surrounded around it and under it and through it, because it is all that there is. But you must face it, because the pain body may seem to you like a dangerous monster that you cannot bear to even look at. Trauma, abandonment, loneliness, illness, disease, etc. I don't even want to look at it. But I assure you, as he says, that it is an insubstantial phantom that cannot prevail against the power of your presence. And your presence being what? The divinity that you are. So we want to declutter. Well, first, identify the clutter. What in your life consists of those old fears, anxieties, worries, etc., in the same way that a lab technician identifies a genome or a germ or a cell? Identify the clutter. Then differentiate between what do I keep, what do I discard. Some thoughts we can keep. Right? Like we still have a concept of God that we keep, although it is not the same as the once held anthropomorphic old white guy in the sky hurling lightning bolts, destroying stuff. Differentiate. I can keep the word God because I have a new concept of it. I can recycle the concept to something that is more life-affirming and more truthful than. But once we have differentiated, then is the work to change it, to do the work. Because as Octavia Butler says, all that you touch, you change. And all that you change, changes you. And that the only lasting truth is change. God is change. So many of us spend so much time trying not to change stuff, trying to recapture the something of yesteryear, whether it's an appearance, I want to look like my younger self, or something in the past, like a time when whatever, you get my point. There, we are so nostalgia. Let's bring the past back to the present. And I love it. I do not want to. Change is inevitable. Embrace it. As she says, God is change. Knowing that, are we now willing to step into a new era of, a new way of expressing the power that comes with change? Because making space for it, making room for it is change. And as Ralph Waldo Emerson says, the only person that you are destined to become is the person that you decide to be. Who are you deciding to be today? Are you deciding to be someone who is peace and peacefulness, someone who is joy and joyfulness, someone who is so forgiving that you don't even, like, it's not even a thing. It's like, oh, wash and clean. There's no stain upon my heart or my soul. I remember what was done, but it does not tarnish my being. Who are you deciding to be? Because in the space of making space for it, breathe. As the vocalist said, we are making room for grace. Grace, I'm turning it into an acronym. Grace being God realization, actualizing, creating, expressing. Are we making room for, are we making space for grace, God realization, actualizing, creating, expressing? Because when we do that, when we really get to that, we understand that what it is you. You are it. Tag. You're it. There is no God outside of us. You're it. There is no power outside of us. You're it. There is only one power and only one presence, that which God is as the infinite goodness itself. There is no separation between. There is no space between what God is and what we are. There is only what God is as. You are it. And the more we embrace that power, the more we embrace that awareness, as Joel Goldsmith says, God expresses God, and that expression appears as you. Dr. Holmes. For the highest God and the innermost God is one God and not two. Meister Eckhart, as I just said, between me and God, there is no between. Dr. Holmes, the life within you is God. Whatever is true of God is true of your life, since your life and the life of God, the life that is God, are not two, but one. And lastly, for the only God that you and I will ever know is the one that we embody. Never forget that. Never forget that. You are it. And the more we step into that space of realizing, then the easier it is. Still not, still has some, but it becomes easier to address the monsters of trauma, fear, anxiety, worry, the judgments of, the criticism of, the self-loathing and self-hatred and lack of self-care and all of these things. The more you understand who and what you truly are, the easier it is to now navigate through. The easier it is to now show up as. The easier it is to stand in your power knowing that your mind is the mind that is God. There is only one mind, and that mind is God, and that mind is infinitely creative, infinitely powerful, and that mind is your mind now. So the moment we have any questions about, well, the fact that we have a question, the answer is already there, or we wouldn't even know to have a question. So we want to end racism, sexism, homomisia, transmisia, all of these things. The answer is already there, and the answer avails itself the more we are willing to move the clutter of, well, it's their fault. It's them. It's it's who, it's whatever, versus saying, breathe. There is only one power. There is only that which God is, and I avail myself to knowing that what it is I must be. This life, this thing I call my life, is the one life. This mind that I use to think and dream and imagine is the same mind that God is, and I bring this together in harmonious, active alignment, and I live, move, and have my beingness accordingly. And as a result, a world that works for all must. Not only is it possible becomes probable becomes inevitable. In the same way that Yeshua is said to have done miracles, and we are told, we are taught, we have learned, we have recited that he said, yo, check this out. I did these miracles, and so can you, and even greater. But in order to do so, I cannot be blinded by, I cannot have my vision obscured by the clutter. Fears, doubts, worry, lack, scarcity, the oh, woe is me-isms of, versus saying, yes, I've experienced trauma, and now there is this thing called healing that is mine to do. Yes, we as a community are experiencing A, B, and C, and yet, even in the midst of that, there is a path forward. There is spiritual practice, there is principle, and there is truth. Are we willing to step into that space? As the old G.I. Joe cartoon used to say, knowing is half the battle. Then what is the other half? Doing. Know the clutter, identify it, and then do what we are invited to do to declutter, to make space for it. Breathe. Because you are worthy of it. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Raymont. What an awesome talk this morning. Reminding us of the spiritual power that we have within us. Thank you. All right. So now it's time for our affirmation of prosperity. If you enjoyed this talk, and you enjoy all the talks that we have, that it's an opportunity to give, to share, to create in this abundance that we have. It's a new year, so it's a new start. You can donate online at cslmidtown.org/donate. You can scan the QR code on the screen. Either of those ways work, takes you to the offering place. So if you now will say with me our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. I got a couple of announcements. We've got Reverend Dr. Ron Fox back with us next week. It flows, and his lovely wife, Becky, will be our practitioner that week. And prior to the service on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., we have a study group that forms that's going through the Science of Mind textbook. You can join that anytime. And the other thing was with what we do, with what we've got, share. If you like this message this morning, share it with your friends. You've got it on social media. It's on our Facebook channel. It's on the YouTube channel. And it comes out in a podcast. So any of those methods you can use to share this wonderful message with your friends. And we'd appreciate that. So now, if you would say with me our affirmation of life. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. And if you want to have a discussion with Reverend Raymont, we've got the Zoom room open. You can join us at cslmidtown.org. Scroll down to the Zoom channel, click on that link, and it will take you right to the room. If you're already there, we'll see you there in a minute or so. Thanks. Have a great week, everybody.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. Hey! Oh yeah. Grateful. I just say I am so grateful every day for all I have. Every day. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all I have. Every day I say it. Grateful. How I'm grateful. Every day. Oh yeah. I am so grateful. Oh yeah. I'm so grateful. 'Cause I accept and I receive. I am so grateful. Oh yes, I am. I am. So grateful, yeah. Grateful. I'll just count my blessings.
There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are.